This is Brunch with Bari, number 5. And today I'm having brunch with Rich Roffman, publisher of Coral Gables magazine, and we are enjoying coffee and treats from the Biltmore itself. Rich, you are our neighbor. Many people don't know that our offices, the theater offices, are here in the Biltmore,
right,
as are Coral Gables magazine offices.
Right, so I could come over and I could borrow a cup of sugar.
That's right.
Okay, just saying.
And I think that the first really good Cuban coffee I had came from this office.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Somebody came down.
This is a good place. The Biltmore have very good Cuban coffee when you come here. They have very good everything, to be honest with you. So.
Well, let's try their coffee. We'll see.
This is good.
Is this Cuban coffee or is this just regular coffee?
No, this is it's a cappuccino.
And it's
delicious.
Cappuccino. It's absolutely delicious. I'm holding your really awesome glasses because I couldn't resist. They are distance glasses, it turns out.
Yes, they are.
But I don't know if I look as cool in them as you do.
I don't know if I look cool in them.
You do.
I try to
you
look
do.
cool. I gotta work really hard at it because it's fading. All right, so there it is.
What else is really cool about you is that you're in the magazine business and that you have this nationally syndicated radio show that's been going on for
about 14 years.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And that's called Made in America.
Yes.
So I'm gathering from the brief conversations we've had, but also from reading your extensive bio, that trade, and specifically trade in Latin America, but trade in general.
Yeah, pan-hemispheric trade.
How did you get involved in this?
I live in Miami. Everything's pan-hemispheric in Miami. No, it's very interesting, and it really shows the legacy of what Miami is all about. I started in the business in the 70s.
In the publishing business.
In the publishing business. I was originally teaching college English. I was an associate professor of English at Nova University, before it was Nova Southeastern.
And is that what brought you down here to begin with?
No. I came down here because, being Jewish, we came down here from New York City. As soon as it went under 70 degrees, we go to Liberty Travel, we get our tickets from Mr. Cooper, and we come down here twice a year. Jews do that. It's a tropism. We can't help it. It just happens. and so eventually that behavior got my parents to move here when I was a sophomore in college. And then so I started coming here 5-6 times a year out of guilt. I guilted them.
Also a tropism.
Yeah. They had to let me come down here. So, but I came down here to be with my family, and then when I graduated, I started working down here, and I did all sorts of different things, and wound up with my degrees in college. I wound up teaching English in college.
And you were starting to tell me that you went to a private university.
Yeah, Syracuse.
It went to Syracuse, okay,
Yeah.
which has an incredible journalism program.
Yeah.
And is that what you were part of, or were you creative
actually,
writing?
No, it wasn't. I went to Syracuse because I was studying English and I was pre-law, and I really wanted to be an attorney, and that was my big thing. Man, I don't know, it's a Perry Mason moment. I have no idea, but I wanted to be an attorney, a litigating attorney, and I made a significant law school in '68. Remember? And then I found out that was in like May of '68. I graduated. I was supposed to be at Columbia in the fall, and then the school called and said, "Listen, Vietnam, you're going to go, and there's nothing we can do to save you. Our suggestion is go back to upstate New York and ask the American Friends Service Committee, which were the Quakers." And the Quakers were leading the students how to not go into the war, because I was, fight them, and I wasn't going to go do that. I didn't believe in the Gulf of Tonkin. So I didn't want to go to Vietnam, and I don't like rice that much. I'd die in boot camp anyway. So I wound up there getting another degree, and I worked in a Title I neighborhood in Syracuse teaching English to 7th graders and 10th graders, and then finished another degree, and then the war wasn't over, so I continued my postgraduate work and stayed there until '72, and then finally left and came down to Florida. So that got me to Florida, because if you have a choice, let me think, do I want to stay in Syracuse? Let me think what it does. It rains every day, it snows every other day, it's really crappy weather, or do I want to come to Bay Harbor Island, where my parents had a home? I'm like, tough decision, fill the car with gas and get out of Dodge. So I left. That's what got me here.
Wow.
And I came down here eventually and started a life and didn't grow up yet. I was still long-haired freak in college. And my father never saw me grow up. He died too young. But I was all part of that 70s, 60s routine.
Yeah.
And played rock. I was in a band for almost 7 years.
What did you play?
I played keyboard. So I
Wow.
played Hammond B3 and a
Wow.
Fender Rhodes piano
Wow.
at the same time.
And I think I remember you saying I could be wrong, also took ballet classes growing up.
Yeah, I had an insane mother. I had a very, growing up in New York City, my mother wanted us, I have a big sister, to take advantage of everything New York could offer. That's the value of being in New York City.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't get killed, riding around in New York City in those days. So starting in 4th grade, my mother made me go to Joe Biviano School of Music to take, of all things, accordion.
Wow, sexy.
It was a Lawrence Welk moment, And so she takes me up to West 47th Street to take accordion lessons, and they put this big. I was in 4th grade. I'm like little, and they put an accordion on me, and I went right over on the floor. And they put the accordion on me, and I cried. And I cried every week I went there to go do this because I really didn't want to play accordion because it wasn't cool. Nobody played accordion except Myron Florin on Lawrence Welk Show.
It's true.
See the above. So they also had piano. So I begged my mother, said, please, let me just take your piano. I know I can't bring it to my music lessons, but you can put a piano in my bedroom, which they did.
Wow.
So I took piano right through high school.
Wow.
And flute. And then my mother made me go to acting classes in New York. So she just wanted me to do that. So we did all these plays and stuff we learned. And we went every Wednesday night we'd go to another play somewhere in New York City in this group. It was really good. My mom was great. And then she sent me to ballet when I was in 6th grade. My sister took ballet on 5th Avenue. I guess he was with Martha Graham. I guess that was it. And anyway, I was the only boy there.
Fabulous, right?
Well, not when you're in that time frame.
I see.
It wasn't really acceptable to, there was no place for me to change. All the girls had to come out, and then I would go in. And then I'd change, and I'd come out, and then all the girls would be lining up on the bar, and me. And of course, I did my basic routine. I cried. And I cried a lot because I felt like, I don't like this. This isn't going to work for me. Although, in retrospect, it would have been great.
Yeah.
Because I would have done something better than I am. So my mother says, okay, you don't have to do ballet. I've got something really masculine for you. So she sent me to the Jose Greco School of Flamenco Dancing.
Really?
Flamenco dancing, yeah. Also, a town hall in New York City, which is close to West 47th Street. Apparently, my mother had an affinity for that address. So I actually took lessons from Jose Greco.
Wow.
School of Dance. So my mother put me in this mode to perform.
Yeah.
Starting in 4th grade.
It seems like you legitimately are an expert and B, truly interested in this pan-hemispheric trade.
Yeah.
Did that start gradually, and were you getting interested in publishing before that, or?
I'll tell you, it's a fun story. So I'm at Nova University, and I worked about 70 hours a week for Abe Fischler, who was the head of it at the time. He and his group hired me.
I see.
I was originally teaching at Broward Community College 101, 102, 104, really crappy courses, but that's where they give the beginners.
Yeah.
And then someone heard of me, and I got an interview, and they took me over there, and I got to teach science fiction. I got caught up in teaching. I worked with Rita Bornstein down here at University of Miami on Title IX, and I got caught up in Title IX, and I became very passionate about women's rights and equality of women, girls. Title IX was really for girls, for sports. That was the original intent, and then it kind of morphed into something bigger, which is fine. So I did that, and I taught I wrote a course, Men and Women, Myths and Stereotypes, and all these courses sold out. Then I ran the Institute of Lifelong Awareness, the Institute of Retired Professionals. So I did that, and then here's the connection to Miami. So they said, would you be interested in running the film program on Friday nights on campus?
Heck yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Of course I would. And so we, on Friday nights, we'd be in the main campus, well, the only campus we had at the time, but in the main building. And they had an auditorium, seating, I don't know how many people sat there, 800 people? I have no idea, but it was pretty big.
Yeah.
And for me, it was pretty big. And it was certainly more than 30 kids in my class, and adults. So on Friday nights, I would lecture on, and I themed it, and then this older guy, who's obviously younger than I am right now, this guy comes up to me. This is the connection. Here's the connection. Here's the kernel thought. The connection was that Sylvan Meyer, who was my mentor, Sylvan Meyer comes up to me and he says, I think you're funny. And I was. I had a sense of humor about it. I always made people laugh. I like to do that. I don't know why. I view life through a sitcom.
Yeah.
Right? So Sylvan says, listen, I just bought the corpse of a magazine from Bertie McCormick and Barrett Alley, who are up in Fort Lauderdale. And it's Miami Magazine. It's not publishing right now. And he was also the editor at one point of the Miami News. So he buys this magazine, comes up to me and says, hey, listen, so I bought this magazine. Would you be interested in having lunch with me? I think I'd like to offer you an opportunity to come work with me. My kids won't do it. And I figured, well, hell, all right. I mean, I've already got these degrees. I can do this. Yeah. So Sylvan Meyer gets me into downtown Miami in the 70s. If you understand the 70s in Miami, that was the pinnacle decade to make Miami international, multinational, the gateway to Latin America. So at that time, Sylvan was very much involved with Merritt Sturheim. They were close friends. And they were forming something called the Beacon Council. And Sylvan was a major supporter of that. I'm just this kid working for Sylvan. And he says to me one year, and this is how I even met JP. So he said one day, he said, listen, hey Rich, I gotta tell you something. This is how we talk. I gotta tell you, we gotta come up with something in June. We gotta be really big in June. So we're going to carry ourselves financially, It's sort of like Beetlejuice, Say it once, say it twice. So he said, I want you to come up with a special for the magazine that we can do that will be an annual, that will bring a lot of cash in, because magazines these things eat a lot of money.
Yeah.
A lot of money. And so I came up, since we were the gateway to Latin America, that's what we were promoting ourselves. Let's do Global Gateway. Let's do a magazine within a magazine called Global Gateway. And we'll work with, politically speaking, the mayors and the county. Well, we didn't have a county mayor, the city mayor, and the port guy, and the airport guy, and Roy Kenzie, and the visitor convention bureau. All these cats will be part of it. We'll politicize it. We'll do it with the chamber. The Beacon wasn't alive yet. And so we started Global Gateway, and who do we hire to freelance it? My partner of 37 years, JP Faber. The best, bar none, editor anywhere in the Southeast is JP. Pulitzer nominated, brilliant guy, graphics background, smart as you can, just amazingly smart. We did this, and we created Global Gateway, and that was the basis for every magazine we've done since.
Wow.
It was the concept for every magazine, anything we've done, whether it's, Coral Gables magazine, or it was Latin CEO magazine, or it was South Florida CEO magazine. We've done like 10 of them.
It's all been about being the gateway.
If you're looking for the great vowel shift, which created modern day English, and that was a very important part of England and Europe, the Anglos and Saxons, that was it.
I see.
That was it. We did Global Gateway. It gave us a structure, and it put me involved with politically all these other guys and ladies, and who were making Miami international. So that got me involved in Latin America, the British consulate in Miami in '89 when JP and I got back together again. I mean, along the way I've done other things. I mean, I did South Florida Magazine. Miami Magazine became South Florida. I did that. South Florida, it was all sold in 10 years. I didn't want to stay there anymore because I did it for 10 years.
Yeah.
I met Stephen Brill along the way. Stephen Brill is the Stephen Brill from New York. He did Court TV and some other stuff. Yeah. So Stephen Brill offers me the job as publisher and president of the Florida corporation that bought the Miami, Broward, and Palm Beach Daily Business Reviews, which still exists today. So we bought them. Eddie Wasserman came in as the editor. I came in as the publisher and president of the Florida Corp. We had 3 offices. I'm doing that. Along the way, 3 years later, another magazine gets founded by JP and the guy who came to be my partner, and it was New Miami Magazine. And New Miami Magazine was for the Young Turks on Brickell Avenue. So we decide one day we're going to do a cover story on getting baseball.
Yeah.
Baseball very good to me. We're going to do baseball.
Yeah.
And so we put Wayne on the cover, Wayne Huizenga on the cover of the magazine. And so I decided to bring the magazine to Wayne one morning up at 901 East Los Olas, and rather than just send it to him.
Yeah.
So I go up there and we're talking. We're having coffee at like 6 in the morning. Blockbuster's a crunch for hours. And Wayne said, hey, we got this brochure. What do you think? So 2 things occur. One, I give him all these ideas. And he says, well, thank you. And then, he goes like this and he says, I got to go. So 6 weeks later, I get a phone call. And the lady up front who takes our calls at New Miami. So he says, it's your friend. I said, my friend who? It's your friend Wayne. Wayne. And I'm like, I don't know anyone named Wayne. He goes, yeah, you do. This is Wayne Huizenga. I went, oh, Christ. So I run to my office. I was in the kitchen. I ran to my office. And I said, Wayne, how are you, man? And he goes, well, listen, so we decided we want to hire somebody to run a publishing division for Blockbuster. We like your ideas. I said, great. I'll send you some names of guys I know in New York. They want big names in New York publishing. Yeah. Nope. Meredith or something like that. He says, no, we want to hire you. I almost fell down. So, long story short, 7 or 8 weeks later, because I had 6 interviews to go there, Wayne hires me.
Wow.
And makes me run a new vertical, which is publishing for Blockbuster. And I go to JP and I said, quit your job. And he says, why? Just quit your job. Because if I go do this thing, I told him what was happening. Yeah. If I take you, I'm going to get sued for pirating. Wow. So we created Blockbuster Magazine. And eventually I became the speechwriter for Wayne. I was writing speeches for him. Wow. Towards the end of my tenure there.
So we're having cappuccinos from the Cellar Bar Club, and we're having pastries also from the Cellar Bar Club.
Which means they're really good.
Okay.
Because they come from the Biltmore.
That's right. Everything from the Biltmore is absolutely delicious and first rate. But I'm so enjoying hearing not only your own history, but the history of Miami through your lens, because you're seeing...
It's hysterical.
You're seeing the city really grow over a very important period of time.
Yeah. It was such a fortunate time because it was all happening. I mean, you couldn't... It was hard to fail. You can anytime. But it was hard to fail in Miami in the 80s. It was growing so well. The only time we had trouble was, about Jimmy Carter time when the interest rate went to 21%, which affected the real estate market. That was a big deal for Florida.
But I saw that I read a quote, and I know that this is a little dated, but I read a quote of that time that you said, and this is an article that was written in South Florida Business Journal in 2008, so some time ago. But in looking back at that time, you said, if you just read the media that's out there, they say it's a great market, but who's going to pick it up from that pause? My magazine started as media that would see things as half full rather than half empty. That really spoke to me because I really try and approach things from a place of optimism. And optimism is really, it translates well and it's very attractive. And if you're leading something, you have to be optimistic about where you're heading.
Well, I'll tell you where that came from. If you remember, in the early '90s, Miami was a pretty rough. Miami Vice is an example of how rough it was. It's a little exaggerated, but not too far, because we were killing people on State Road 27 pretty often. Burned out cars. The yayo was taken, cocaine, if you watch Scarface, and the money. And so it was a pretty tough place to be. But we were also, at the time, killing British tourists, German tourists, people who drove off of I-95 and just didn't know where they're going. It was a really tough time. Huh. So, concurrent to all this international happening, which was exciting, Miami went through a period of indictability and killing, and it was a tough place to be. And it was a tough place to get CEOs to move here. So when we did Latin Trade magazine, it's not up here. We did Latin Trade magazine after Blockbuster. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but ironically, I met him. That's Cisneros at Blockbuster. That's Gustavo Cisneros, second wealthiest Latin American.
Wow.
He and his brother Ricardo were the first international franchisees of Blockbuster.
Wow.
And who do I meet? Because my office is opposite Wayne's. I met him. So it's amazing.
Yeah, right.
And that kind of got JP and I thinking about Latin America even more.
Right.
Because remember, my office is in Fort Lauderdale now, and JP's too. And so eventually we wound up back in Miami with Latin Trade. We sold, it was very successful, extremely successful. Pan-Hemispheric magazine, all over the United States, all over Latin America. I wound up speaking on the floor of Parliament to all the ministers as to the Beyond routes and why they were the biggest investor in Latin America, in Miami in the late 80s was the Brits. UK, go look at Brickell Key. It's all British money.
Huh.
Swire Corporation.
Because they were trying to get into Latin America?
Yes. And Miami was the gateway. That was the whole point.
Yeah.
We had more flights, more ships, more everything.
Right.
We spoke the language. We had all the culture. We had the best coffee you could get anywhere in the hemisphere.
Totally.
So.
And someone said to me, they said, no, Miami's not the southernmost part of the United States. It's the northernmost part of Latin America.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not so sure I'd say that we're the capital. We said that for a while. That was pretty audacious. We're the capital of Latin America. What an insult.
That is audacious.
Panama was a big banking center. And we were becoming the banking center. As a matter of fact, for a while, with the proliferation of EDGE Act banking, EDGE, EDGE Act banking, which means Bank of Brazil could have a branch here, right, and do business in Brazil right here. That's the EDGE Act bank. And that's how we grew. We actually had more international banks for a while in Miami for a few years than LA did. Miami was just prolific. So Bill Cullum and Frank Nero and Jay Molina, rest his soul. He died at a very young age of a brain aneurysm. Very influential people, great people. And they called us to lunch one day and they said, listen, because we're out of the business. We're doing international magazines now. And he said, could you guys come back and do another Miami magazine? This is where that quote comes from.
I see.
And he said, because if you only read what was in the Miami Herald at that time, they're knocking the city.
Right.
And we're having trouble. Frank Nero's having trouble bringing corporations.
Yeah.
The Chamber's having trouble going
Needs a
against
good press.
CEOs. And we have a great opportunity, but people are tainted. They're seeing it through the spectacles of crime.
Yeah.
Could you guys do another magazine?
I see.
And I said, yeah, we could. I mean, I don't want to do a local magazine again. I really like operating on a global, national level. And but if you guys get behind it and politicize it with the right people, that means we're going to get the mayors and the governors.
Yeah.
And this becomes a passion. This becomes a cause. That we're going to do something that's going to really help the community. So we came out with that South Florida CEO. It morphed into that. We did Miami Business magazine. Miami Business was to see things half full rather than half empty. To tell the story of why Miami was such a interesting, wonderful place to be, and one of the most opportunistic places to be in a city that encourages research and development, innovation, speaks multiple languages. We were, in the 90s, in Miami, what people wanted to be today. We were inclusive, we were equality, we were innovative, we were multicultural, we were bilingual, trilingual, quadlingual. And could you do a magazine that reflects that?
Yeah.
Because no one knows it.
Right.
We can't get people to come. So we did. We did Miami Business.
So where, first of all, let's eat our
let's do
treats.
This. Come on.
So I was pretty surprised. Look at this. This is absolutely delicious looking. So I was, when we met the first time, I asked you, people say that, I mean, one would imagine that it's that it's always been very difficult to publish a magazine.
Oh, it's horrible.
One would imagine that now, with all the online content that it's even harder to publish a magazine since so much of a magazine is about selling ads.
Sure.
But you said no. You said that Coral Gables magazine is having
We're doing great. But there's a reason.
Okay.
So let me give you the academics first.
Oh my God.
All right. If someone comes to you and says you'd like to invest, isn't that good?
This is so
I
good.
know I can feel it on my hip already. If someone comes to you and says, would you like to invest in a magazine? The safest thing for you to do is just get up and walk into the wall. No, walk into the wall, take your pain, and don't invest in the magazine.
I thought that was investing in theater.
Pretty close.
Okay.
Because 96% of all magazines fail in the first year.
Yeah, and I think it's 98% of Broadway shows
Tough.
flop.
Yeah, really, really tough.
Yeah. Okay.
Of the remaining 4%, 75% of those fail in the second year.
Okay.
So if you make it to the third year, it's like a breakthrough.
Right. So what's the secret with Coral Gables magazine?
Well, the secret of Coral Gables magazine and that magazine, going back to the late 70s and early 80s, was that we've been around so long. One, we're very seasoned. So here's the deal. Magazines fail for a number of reasons. One, lack of capital. That's the first thing. Because they spend a lot of money. It ain't cheap. It's very expensive to do a quality. You can do garbage. You won't survive because you're not saying anything.
Right.
All you're doing is putting out crap that people can read, have no interest in. They don't develop behaviorism. They don't want to read it anymore. Goes flat. That's money. Number two is bad management. They don't know what they're doing.
Right.
Well, the difference is that JP and I have been doing this since look at the Bible. It says Deuteronomy. That's about it. So we've been doing it a long, long time. All right. The other one is going to be that you miss. There's no market. You're deluding yourself. Right. You're believing your own PR. Very, very dangerous.
Right.
Don't believe your own PR. But it goes back to my partner JP. JP knows what he's doing. JP has a really good feel for the editorial. Mm-hmm. And so the team that we have, collectively, each individually probably wouldn't do it as well. Sure. But collectively, we're stronger.
Right, right.
And we're a very, very good publishing team.
I like that. I like what JP had told me about Coral Gables magazine. I mean, the first rule of producing is, and it's probably one of the first rules of publishing, is know your audience. Yeah. I liked that JP told me that you all focus only on Coral Gables.
Yeah.
And if it's outside of Coral Gables, you don't focus on it.
We're not really interested in it.
Yeah.
No. If we did a Miami-Dade County magazine, we'd be interested in it. But if we're doing Coral Gables, look, we don't go on newsstands. We're not sold.
Yeah, you don't.
We're only interested in the 54,000 people that are right around 3-4 miles from where we're sitting right now.
What's the number one reason people advertise?
The quality of the product and where it goes. That's what it is. When we came out with the first, look, why did it work in Coral Gables, for example? It's a very interesting city. I mean, Coral Gables is a microcosm of what Miami is, except it's better.
Right.
Coral Gables has a tremendously strong community. One, it's very well educated. Number two, it's very well heeled. It's a very wealthy market.
Yeah.
The CEOs, the C class, so you have the COOs, CFOs, CEOs, and so forth, live here running the corporations there.
Yeah.
They're here.
Yeah.
All right? So they're very, very active in this community. This is a very well-connected, concerning community.
It reminds me of, my husband and I lived in Pasadena, California.
Oh,
and
wow.
It reminds me
Rose Bowl.
Yeah, it reminds me of Pasadena to Los Angeles. That's where all the studio heads live.
Yeah, I think that's a good analogy.
If you were to give me advice about the future of GableStage, what would it be?
I think GableStage is going to do great. I think culture is going to do great. I think you're talking to a guy that grew up on culture and what you're doing, and I think people want so much to get another fix of culture that they really need this to make them feel better. Culture. When you go see a show, you learn about yourself.
Yeah.
We've done tons of Zoom calls. I've done webinars for corporations. You know what I mean? But it's not multidimensional.
Yeah.
And theater is.
Yeah.
Theater is all engulfing.
I always hate when people describe going to the theater as watching something, because you watch a screen, you watch a film, you watch TV. but you don't watch a play. You engage with the play.
You engage with the play. I mean, if you want to, I'm going to go back a little bit, but a couple of things that come to my mind, and that is, number one, 12 Angry Men, all right? That was on Broadway first.
Yeah.
And then Henry Fonda bought the rights,
Yes.
and he put it on the screen. And it wasn't a super hit at first, but when you watch that, and it's relevant today, the lines in that film, in that show, are as relevant today as they were then, because they're talking about prejudice, pre-prejudice, stereotypes, generalizations in how we treat people, and why we should open up our minds and close our eyes for a second and don't see color, don't see race, don't see ethnicity, see people.
Yeah.
That's a takeaway from that. And then you realize what a horrible civilization we can be if we go that route and we don't take the road less traveled by, like a frost night. So, you know, theater does that.
Yeah.
A good show does that.
Does it, in my opinion, better than any other art form.
So what we're really talking about is why would GableStage, why will GableStage do well? Because people need that. They need that. We've missed that. So people need the connectivity, and people want to get back to what was normal, and normal is theater. Theater is part of the fabric of our culture. And so I think, going forward, I think this is going to be a great year.
I mean, I hope that's true. I know that it's not going to just be like that. It's not going to be
Nothing's
like
easy.
Over.
They're going to be there. You know, I hate to sound like Kevin Costner, you know, build it and they will come, but they will come.
Yeah. I'm really focused on moving forward. I'm really, really focused on making sure that we have a season. And whether we're doing it both streaming and live, or only live, or whether it's for 5 people in there, whether it's for, 500 people, that we're going to do plays.
I love your brunch. It's great.
Okay, good.
I love the conversation.
Okay, good.
I really enjoy this.
Good.
Sometime we'll talk about my national radio show. You don't have to do it now. I don't think you have time, but it's fun.
The national radio show is about American trade. Things made
It's
in
called,
America?
yeah, it's called Made in America. We're on right now 110 AM stations every week. We have about, I can't say exactly, but around 200,000 people. We're on Armed Force Radio, so we're all over around the world.
And how often do you do that?
Every Thursday,
Live?
I record live. Yeah,
Wow.
It's recorded live because all the stations play it at different times. So there's no common denominator.
Wow.
And we got the commitment to go to 300 stations by mid next year.
That's incredible.
We're syndicated out of Washington with one of the 4 larger syndicators.
What is something that people don't know is made in America?
Don't know?
Yeah.
Probably the best ice cream scoops
Really?
anywhere
Scoops.
in the world. Or my partner Neil Asbury makes them up in Pennsylvania. Yeah.
Why are they so much better?
Because they have a unique design, and they have something inside of it that I'm not going to tell you. That you're going to have to come back sometime.
Okay, and have ice cream.
And have ice cream, and I'll get you the scoop.
I'm here with Rich Roffman, and we are having brunch, talking about ice cream, eating delicious treats, and I'm so grateful for your time.
It's a pleasure. Anytime you want to come here and feed me, that's great. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.